Hi, welcome to this Excel tutorial video, and today we're going to look at Excel shortcuts and using the Excel keyboard to maybe speed up and enhance our experience using Excel. So we're going to try and look at ways of using Excel without using a mouse, alternative ways. So first of all, let's look at moving about Excel in the environment. So I can use my mouse to move my cursor about, or I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard to move my cursor about. Generally, if you're looking at this, you would probably just use your mouse to move it here. But if you wanted to say go to the bottom of a list of data, you can go down here, or you can use this scroll bar to find the bottom of your list of data. But what you can do with your keyboard is, if you press Control and down, it will take you to the last entry that's got data before a space. So if I were to delete this here and delete this here, and we do Control up, it takes me to here, and then it'll take, if I do Control up again, it takes me to the next cell that's got data in, and if I do Control up again, it takes me to the last cell before a space, and then we can go all the way up our piece of text, our column of data. We should undo that. And it's the same with left or right. We can go left or right here, and it'll take us to the next field that's got data in here. So it's a good way of kind of skipping up and down a column or a row of data. We can also then, that was using the Control key, but we can also then add the Shift key to that. And if we press the Control and Shift and go down, we highlight a load of data, which is useful then if we want to kind of not just go to the bottom of a piece of data, but highlight a chunk of data so we can make it bold or italic or do something with a chunk of data. Again, same with columns or rows. Control Shift across highlights, in this case, all the way to the first field with a value in it. And then when you've done that, so if I go down here, you can then use a different shortcut. So Control B is to bolden, Control I is to make italic, Control Z is to undo the command you've just done. Now, what's kind of useful with shortcuts? We all know about Control B and Control cut and copy and paste, that sort of thing. But if you're unsure what a shortcut is, there is a bold button here, and if I hover over it, it'll tell me that that button is bold, and it'll also tell me that Control and B will trigger that that action. Control and I and Control and U. So if I am unsure how I can do something as a shortcut, if I hover over the button, it should tell me if there is a shortcut available and what that shortcut is. So, well, these are the examples. I've got cut and copy and paste here. Control C, Control X, and this is paste, Control V. So if you're ever unsure, you just hover over a button and it will tell you if it's got a known shortcut. Now, also we can press the Alt key. If we press Alt just once, tap it, you'll see at the top here we've now got all of these little black squares with letters in. So what that means is once I press Alt, it's taken me to the menu at the top, and I've got the ability now, just by pressing the letters within this black box here, to go to a particular tab at the top, a particular toolbar. So let's say I want to go to my data toolbar here. I've pressed Alt, it's brought up these little boxes. If I press A, it takes me to the data tab. It then also then says, right, now what do you want me to do? Now where do you want to go? You're in this tab, here's more options. So maybe I want to do sort and filter. So if I press T, it opens up this little sort and filter option here. And I can just take that off if I want to. But pressing Alt takes you into here. So let's imagine your mouse is broken. You want to save and close this document. You press Alt, it says, okay, I know that to save and close it, I've got to go to the file menu. Well, to go to the file menu, I press F, and then when I'm in here, I can choose S for save, C for close, and I've got the ability to use these actions without using the mouse. To get out of this, I press this. I didn't want to press this. To get out of it, you press Escape, and if you're still in it, so you can see at the top, I've still got the Alt kind of facility triggered. I press Escape again. I'm now back in Excel, and I can move about as normal. So let's say we want to insert a new column. I'm going to highlight column F here, and if I do Control and minus, oh, that's actually removed one. Let me just undo that. If I do Control and plus, now my plus on my keyboard is above the equals sign, so the key itself is equals. If I want to press the plus symbol, I've got to press Shift. So if I do Control and Shift, press my plus key, I add a new column, and it's the same with rows. If I do Control Shift my plus, I add a new row, and if I do Control and minus, I will remove that row or column. Nice and easy. Now, if I haven't got a row or a column highlighted, if I've got just a single cell or some cells highlighted, and I do my Control, Shift, and plus, it will say, okay, do you want to insert it to the right or insert it down, insert an entire row? I'm just going to cancel this. What that Control, Shift, plus is doing is it's replicating me right-clicking this and doing insert. So rather than highlighting right-click insert, I can highlight Control Shift plus, and it will do the same thing. Same with Control and minus will replicate the delete option here, and where you can choose to delete from the left or up. Just before we went on to data and we went to filter, and that allows us to put a filter in. Now I've got here Control Shift and L. There you go. So if I go back to here, I go to the top here and I do Control Shift and L, it'll add the filter for me. So it's just another example of where you can hover over a key and it'll tell you the shortcut for it. Control and Z is undo. If I just hover over this undo here, you can see Control and Z. So if I've done an action, I can undo it. It'll undo multiple actions. If you do Control Z and then Control Z and then Control Z and then Control Z, it'll slowly undo an item at a time here. Now let's think about formatting. So if I hover over this percent here, Control Shift and percent. If I hover over this, the comma star doesn't have a shortcut. If I hover over this, it doesn't have a shortcut. Now this comma star, I know it's got a shortcut. So if I put a value here of 2000, if I highlight that and I choose this comma sign, it will make it a number and it will put a comma separating the thousands and it will give it 2 decimal places. Now I'm just going to undo that. Now, although it doesn't say there's a shortcut, there is. So if I do Control Shift and 1 while I've got that highlighted, it will do the formatting. Now what it hasn't done, actually, I don't think it's formatted as a number. Maybe it's just in the formatting to say 2 decimal places and the comma separator. If I just undo that and press that, it's right justified, so it actually made it a number as opposed to just doing the formatting. If we select this here, it will give it a pound sign. If I do Control Shift and 4, it will do the same thing. But again, I think the formatting is it's just a piece of text as opposed to a number with a currency sign. Maybe that's the difference. Let's think about widths, heights. So let's think that I want to change the width of this column here. If I press Alt, and then if I do HOW, it takes me to the width. Now you saw as I was doing that, if I press Alt and then I take my finger off the key, and then I press H, tap it, then I press O, tap it, then I press, I can do H for height, it'll bring up the row height, or it'll bring up the column width if I do W instead of H. But what you can also do is say, I want this field to be as wide as this, the value in this field. So I don't want it to be as wide as the longest field. I want it to be as wide as the value in this particular field here. So if I press Alt H-O-I, it forces the width to the width of the data in this cell. And if I move to a different cell, do the same thing, Alt H-O-I, it changes the width to be the size of this, the data in this cell. The last thing I want to show you is to talk about functions and how when you look at functions, they reference different fields, but sometimes it's not already clear which fields are referenced by functions and which aren't. So let's imagine, well, first of all, this function, it's quite involved, there's a lot to it. If I put my cursor within this little box here, the formula bar, you'll see that certain fields get coloured. So this is now blue, this is purple, this is a reddy colour, and this is green. And then when we look at our formula now, you can see that J19 is blue. And J19 here is blue, and you can see A19 is red, and there's A19 here. So it's kind of helpful. D19 is a greeny colour, and there's that there. It's kind of helpful to say, I can click in here, and it'll kind of give me an idea of how this formula is built. Now, if I press escape, if I select this field here, and I want to delete the data in this field, it isn't clear to me what I might break, what formulas I might affect. If I delete that, I've affected that. It might be more to it, but I have certainly affected that. So if I undo that, what you can do is you can see the dependence on a particular field. So before I delete anything, I can do Alt T-U-D, and it tells me that this field here has a dependency within this field here. And if I go to this field, I can see that, I can certainly see that. That's fine. Now I want to get rid of that arrow, so I want to do Alt T-U-A, and we get rid of the arrow. Now let's go to this here, where the actual formula is. We've got all of this load of logic here. What I actually want to know, although I can kind of click in here and it'll show me some of the information, what I actually want to know is, I want to visually see which fields are referenced by this formula. So if I do Alt T-U-T, it then shows me arrows to say this formula here looks at this, looks at this, looks at this here, this E in column E, and it looks here. So these arrows now help a lot. Now, this is kind of a pretty straightforward horizontal example. It might be that these arrows shoot off. These arrows can actually shoot to different worksheets that you might have. So you might have a reference to a different worksheet, data in a different sheet. So it will show you where all of these references are. And then to get rid of that, again, I'll do Alt T-U-A. That's all I'm going to show you in this video. I hope some of it was new and interesting. Any feedback, any comments, please let me know and I'll reply. As always, thanks a lot for your time.